Hey everybody, we're about ready to get started, and today we're going to be talking about having lack and things that we feel like we have lack towards. And if you've ever been in a space where you really feel like you've got nothing and there's just nothing to give, nothing you can do, and you see all things you don't have, we're going to be addressing that today. So come and join us. Let's get jumping right in. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Thought Raid, a show where we take on thoughts and find better ways of thinking about them. I'm Brandon, and I'm gonna just go straight over to you. This is Tim, and we're trying something different today. We're gonna just jump right into the topic and see if we can just kind of cut to things a little bit faster. So today we're going to be talking about the whole concept of lack. Like, have you guys ever been in a situation where you felt like you've got nothing to give? Like, there's just I don't even know how, I've got all these bills I gotta pay, I've got all these mouths to feed, there ain't nothing in this world for free. and it's just like the very thought of giving anything feels like just a total net loss of your life, and you want to preserve everything and just be kind of stingy. Like, have you been in that place? Because today that's something that we're going to be looking at, the whole lack mentality, it's not just literal lack, because that is a real thing. Sometimes you really don't have anything that you can give. But we specifically are going to be looking at more so, what if you actually have something and you don't want to give it because you don't know what's on the other side? And kind of looking at that. So Tim, I want to throw it over to your direction because this is your week. And as you guys are watching this, if this is something that's particularly interesting to you and you want to share with other people, I want to encourage you to like this right off the bat and to share it with your friends, because we're going to really possibly tip some golden cows today. I don't know. We'll just see. So anyways, Tim, what do you got for us?
Well, I guess the first thought that I had was, do you ever feel like you don't have enough? Because throughout my life, there have been so many times where I felt like I didn't have enough. And, a lot of times we think about resources as money, and that's a constant pursuit for us. Like, how much money is in your bank account right now? And does that amount line up with things that you want to do? There's always some form of lack that we feel like we have. Like, we want a bigger, better house. We want better clothes. We want a better car. We want a car that doesn't have a check engine light that's on. We want to pay for education. We want to pay for a vacation. We want to buy people presents. We want to just go out and have a nice dinner without stressing, oh no, I spent more than $10, But it transcends that. When you're thinking about resources, it's so much more than just money. It's time. Yeah. It's emotion. And in my early 20s, I spent a lot of my resources trying to be something that I wasn't, because I felt like I was always operating in a deficit. It always felt like I was behind. It always felt like I was in debt. It always felt like there was no amount of money less than $1 million that I could have and feel fulfilled. It always felt like that old saying, money can't buy happiness. Let me prove you wrong. Throughout my 20s, money totally could have bought me happiness, but that doesn't mean that money would also buy me healthiness.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a big disparity there.
I think that needs to be said, though, that money can buy you happiness. It's temporary. It's not actual healthiness. It's just happiness. Happiness, the pursuit of happiness, should not necessarily be our goal, as it may be America's goal. But it can. If it didn't, no one would do that. Like, think about that. If money, having more money didn't bring happiness, no one would spend time trying to make as much as they can and to have as much security as they possibly can and to buy things as well, because it would generate no happiness. So clearly it does work. It's just, it's not the most effective thing to do.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like the idea of retail therapy feels really good.
Yeah.
Whenever me and Ariane want to go do something fun and we can't think of anything to do, it's like, well, let's go thrifting. Let's go spend $50 at Mega Thrift. And then we find all these treasures and it's like, I'm gonna always wear this. This is great. I'm gonna love it. And we get it home, we wash it, and it's like, man, I feel depressed again.
Uh, uh.
Because now, we have all these clothes and looking in our closet, there's so much stuff. And we have $50 less than when we started. Um, and honestly, that's how it felt when I was younger too. I would go out and I would spend. I remember I had first started at GameStop, and I was in debt a lot. I had like close to $4,000 in credit card debt. I owed a bunch of money on my car. I mean, there was just a lot of stuff that I was paying off, and for a young adult, that's a lot of money, Though I was like 25, I think. 26 or something. So I wasn't truly a young adult. I should have been able to handle a single credit card and a single car payment since I was living home with my parents. But gosh, where was I going with that? Brandon, what did I just say? How did I start this dialogue?
Well, I mean, first of all, we began with the whole question of, do you feel like you don't have enough? And so then we began to talk about, like, how spending money brings happiness.
Oh, okay. I remember where I was going with that. I started working at GameStop, and I remember I got a check for like $180 the first week. And the second week, I got a check for like $400. It was Christmas, so I worked overtime. And this was completely entry level. I remember I went to Banana Republic and I spent $30 on a white t-shirt. And there was nothing special about it. It was just a Banana Republic branded shirt, and it said so on the label. Other than that, it was just a white t-shirt. $30 on that, dude.
Wow.
And then I went to Fossil and I spent $275 on a leather bag. Now, the leather bag I still have, and it's still pretty righteous. I love it. Yeah, I think it's really cool still. And I honestly, I think bags like that are a smart purchase if you know that it's not the bulk of your income. You don't have extra. If it comes out of overflow and it's something that's going to last a long time, I mean, it's worth it. Like pairs of shoes too. If you're going to wear a pair of shoes for 10 years and it costs you $100, absolutely. But if you've got 50 pairs of shoes already, and you're spending $100 on another pair just because they're the latest thing, it's like, you might have a shopping problem.
Yeah.
But I made all those purchases because I wasn't really wanting to tackle the major things in my life. I wanted to tackle the immediate feeling of I need to feel good about myself, So I guess where I want to go with this is, how do we determine what gets our resources, and do we even have a say in where those resources go? Now, when you're in a position of lack, if somebody puts a plastic bag over your head and seals it,
oh God,
you're not as thoughtful about money and finances. You're not as thoughtful about your job, or your immediate thought is, I can't breathe.
Yeah.
Something that you took for granted, and because something is restricting that resource, all you're thinking is, man, how do I get more of it?
Yeah. I need air. Yeah.
Yeah, and we get like that when we're in debt, and I want to tease out that I'm not talking specifically about financial debt. This also accounts for emotional debt and time debt. When we get in debt, we no longer have a say-so in how we spend our resources. So things around us will make the choice for us. And if you're sitting there thinking, well, that's not true in my life. Well, have you ever received a bill that had the little pink thing in the window saying that it's 3 months overdue and they're going to cut your light bill off or repossess your car unless you pay X amount of dollars, and you don't have X amount of dollars to spend? Well, that's what I'm talking about. Somebody else gets to make your decisions for you. Or if you've committed to a job and church and all these different things that you think give you value, and yet you're not sleeping enough. You're not spending enough time with your family. You're not spending enough time on yourself first, because there's a clear hierarchy as to what should get your resources first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Yet when you commit to things like that, it's like, well, you either have to let your yes be your yes and your no be your no. So you have to decide, okay, well, since I'm overcommitted, am I going to be foolhardy and am I going to be a liar and flaky? or am I going to operate out of, am I going to go into emotional and time debt because I really don't have 120 hours to spend today? I only have 24.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Time debt. That's a whole nother ball field.
Yeah. But like, what's that look like in your life, Brandon? Have you ever been in a place where you felt like your resources had already been accounted for and you were not the one accounting for them?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I used to have a very hard time saying no to people because I had a deficit of friendships. And so any friendship that would come my way, I would just take them in. Like that's like you're talking about deficit of time. Well, I mean, like that for me it was a deficit of social. And so like it completely shaped me. Like to the point where it's like I don't make decisions as to who gets to necessarily be my friend. Like in the sense of like I don't judge you based off how you look, how you know what your background is, whatever. Like I don't make those decisions because I didn't get that chance growing up. I didn't get to be choosy and only be around certain people that looked more similar to me, that thought like me, that enjoyed video games like I did. Like I didn't get that growing up. So I just grabbed for whatever. But then after a time, and as I got into college, I began to have so many friends, but I still had that lack mentality, so I would take and do things with multiple people, and then I would be dry emotionally, and I would have an emotional debt at that point.
Did you realize it in the moment when all that was happening?
When I was starting to develop an emotional debt?
Well, like when you were chasing all these people, did you understand that you were operating from a position of lack and that you were just grasping at straws? Was that in the back of your mind, or was it just trying to get whatever you could?
I mean, it wasn't until much later on that I began. I understood concepts. Like I could see that, yeah, I might have had an orphan mentality, but I didn't really recognize that until I got to a place of abundance, and then it was like. And then as people were like brought and people had to bring it up to me. Like I didn't realize it until someone said, Brandon, you're thinking like an orphan. You're thinking like you're going to be losing all these people and you're not. Like this is an orphan mentality. I'm like, oh. And then I began to recognize it. But no, I don't think I did. I just let me just
Do you think that people telling you that helped, or do you think you would have arrived at that conclusion on your own?
What would have happened if no one told me would be that I would start manifesting passive aggressiveness, irritation, what's the word? Just things would start to bother me, and I would start probably like lashing out at people for no apparent reason. And also, by the way, hello there, strands of Grace. I'd start lashing out at people at random, and that would then drive me to ask what's wrong. And by that point, hopefully, I would have been driven to go, and probably knowing me, I would eventually have gone to get counseling, and then the counselor would say, Brandon, what's going on? Like, you're thinking like you have to be all these places, but you don't. Like,
what you said makes a lot of sense because I'm oblivious about a lot of things. Man, maybe it has something to do with being a guy. And if you're a guy, high five, because I feel like we all deal with this to a degree. But I know that there were so many times where I was overspending my resources or spending my resources in ways that I didn't realize were bad or unhealthy. And I did it for a long time, and whenever the result did not align with what I intended by spending those resources, it's like, okay, well, if I spend $10 on this burger, it must be good. If I spend 10 hours with this person, our relationship must be healthy. If I spend 50 hours serving this person, they must appreciate me. Whatever. I used to think, oh, it's a me problem. Something's wrong with me. Something's wrong with my value. I actually spoke with somebody last night, and they were talking about how they've tried to engage with friends and make friends, and it just seems like nobody loves them. They're not valuable. God hates them.
Goodness.
But when it's just you, when it is just you, and you're trying to reconcile those things, you're addressing the issue from one perspective. And a lot of times, if that perspective is unhealthy, or if you're just not mature, because there have definitely been times, and still to a large degree, I'm not mature about many things. But when you address something from a position of not knowing better, you can't address it from a place of knowing how to fix it.
Right.
You know, you can stumble through it and it might take you 10, 20, 30 years, but having reliable, honest, good intentional counsel is so important.
Yeah.
And finding people that actually have your better welfare at the forefront of their mind is really important. Because Brandon, you have brought things to my attention. Ariane, my wife, frequently brings things to my attention that I am oblivious to. And it's like, my goodness, why is what I'm doing not working? Why is my investment into people, into things, into myself? Why is it not working? Because I'm putting in the work. I'm putting, I feel like I'm going into debt, and it's like, I'm not doing enough. I must do more. And it's a lot of times it's not an issue of me doing more. A lot of times it's me just doing different.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to do that when it's just by myself most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, again, of course, also impacts or brings up the thing a lot of you guys have probably already heard is you need to be choosy as to who you allow in your life, close in your life, because if you have a lot of people that just echo what you feel, well, you're never going to be able to see things from different perspectives, especially in areas where you're not mature in. But if you have people from different points of view that are more mature or just see things different, they're healthy people, then they can help point things out, and you can grow and change and adapt quicker and avoid more pitfalls because you have a good, rich base around you. Yeah, I feel that, Austin, having to have things brought to my attention. That is exactly what I'm going through right now. Like, we have been doing Thought Raid for nearly a year. Next month, the next relatively, I would say 25 days, roughly, we're going to be a year old, which is amazing.
Woo!
It's exciting, yes. But the thing with that is we've gotten to a place where we've been throwing things at the wall, seeing what sticks, and now I feel like God's been like walking me into this season, this brand new season of refinement, and like I really feel like God's like opening the door for people to start criticizing Thought Raid, which is it's uncomfortable, but it's also very good because I know that we've got the integrity. You know that we're going to be here every week, 3 times a week, unless we're like on a little bit of vacation or something. But other than that, we're going to be here. And so, but now how do we, grow and adapt Thought Raids so that we can be a better, product for people to enjoy? And so having things brought to my attention, like I feel that. Like, I need that so much right now. So I want to take a quick second right here in the middle where if there is anything that you guys want to see us talk about in the future, please let us know. Because we desperately want to know, what do you guys want from us? How can we improve Thought Raid and continue to bring it to a new level? Is there topics we haven't covered that you'd like us to talk about? Do you think we should have it at a different time? Do you think whatever? Do you think we should shorten it? I don't know. Let us know what your thoughts on that is. Let us know in the comments. Let us know in thoughtraid@gmail.com. We love to continue to improve and refine Thought Raid. And if we're doing good, let us know that too. That also helps. If we know what we're doing good at, we can continue to build that up. But I want to thank you guys, for all of you who are joining in right now. Thank you for sticking with us. Again, make sure to like it and share it if you're enjoying what you're seeing so we can help more people. So anyways, with that said, I'm going to step off and resume. You continue, Tim.
Yeah. So Austin said, I think cultural standards have an impact on this, feeling like you don't have enough. And social media has really wrecked our thought process.
Yes.
It's so pervasive too. Even I feel like I'm really good with not comparing myself to others. I feel like I've come a long way with not comparing myself to others. I still struggle daily with things like that. And I don't want to say struggle. The thought enters my mind that I have to. Oh, it says we've been disconnected.
Oh, wait, what? Oh, no.
Or it says I've been disconnected.
Wait, you've been disconnected. What? Let me just check. No, it's live on that end. And it's live on that. Nope, the things are still going. Maybe it was just. Oh, okay. He has indeed been disconnected. So while that's happening, I'll switch over to me and have this go in the background. I appreciate that. You said, Austin, you're saying, personally, I like not knowing. Interesting. I like Thought Ray because it makes me think about things I don't often think about. Bring things to your attention. Yeah. I appreciate the compliment. Thank you so much. I'm glad that we have been able to bring things to your attention that you haven't otherwise normally thought about. That's cool. That encourages me to know that we are making a difference, because sometimes it's like we're not always sure who exactly is benefiting from what. Hello, welcome back. So to hear that does help. Okay.
I'm back.
Welcome back. I'm just here, my guy. Hello there, Deathbane.
Okay, what was the last thing I was saying?
Oh dear. As you disappear, like my mind went on thinking about
I was reading Austin's comment about social media and stuff.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so social media has us trained to think that everybody else has it good or better.
Yeah.
You know? And the whole comparison mindset always gets us in this really detrimental loop of thinking, okay, I need more. And what I put in chat after that was overspending and debt. You know, I'm thinking about those commercials that come on TV every Christmas of people getting brand new cars from the dealership and they wrap the bow around it. And I'm thinking to myself, how do people do that? Because the illusion there is that everybody pays cash for cars. Everybody can afford nice things. Everybody can live in huge houses and go on vacations and afford nice clothes and have new iPhones. Guys, like, I'm operating with a freaking iPhone 6, man. It shuts off if I look at Facebook for like a minute and a half.
Oh, jeez.
But it's like, I think that I should have a better phone. I think I should be able to do all these projects around the house. My bathroom's not good enough. My car, it's not newer. It's like, well, what the heck, man? And there's this process that gets ingrained in us that makes us think, okay, well, because as I am right now, I don't have enough. And because even if I overexert my time and my emotions, I don't have enough. Well, let me go into debt. Maybe I'll feel better if I just get what I want right now and just pay for it over time, because that's more achievable. And man, that's a scary thought process. You know, I talk to a lot of young adults that are exiting high school, going into college. And my first question is, why are you going to college? Because I'm all for college. You know, I'm all for education. I'm all for people learning a trade, learning how to do something well, increasing their worldview. I'm all for that. But the thing that saddens me is that 90% of them say, I'm doing this because my parents told me I have to. I'm doing this because my counselors told me I have to. I'm doing this because society says that I'm not going to be able to assimilate into adulthood unless I have a degree. And then they spend the next, 2 to 12 years of their life doing something that they're not sold on, that their heart is not sold on. Their mind is sold on, but their heart's not sold on it.
Right.
Accumulating all this debt, and then they get out thinking, okay, well, this is just how it has to be. And they don't sit there and question that. And we do that emotionally too.
Yeah.
We think that we should have the capacity to give everybody everything. Whether it's every single homeless person that comes up to you, oh, let me give you my full attention, otherwise I'm a crappy human being. Or like all the people that need something from you. I'm rereading the book by Dr. Henry Cloud, Boundaries, right now.
Yes.
And it talks about a lady named Sherry, and every time somebody asks something of her, she feels like, oh, well, the Bible says that I'm supposed to deny myself for my neighbor. So of course I'm supposed to say yes. Yes, I can help them. I have the capacity to help them, so I should help them, right? And then you find yourself exhausted, resentful, angry, upset, frustrated, and then you just want to end your life because you feel like you can never repay the debt that you've overdrawn, Austin said, absolutely, I'm learning myself, and it's learning another perspective as a human and individual. I'd like to think I'd never feel like I've learned enough. I'll be a student of life forever, and it sounds like the difference between chasing happiness and seeking comfort. if I feel happy if I buy things, I'll feel comfort if I can afford them. To get comfort, you need growth. Um, Deathbane's comments are relevant because he is as well.
Yeah,
I'm kidding. I love you,
wow.
Camden.
Wow.
And then Austin said, Tim, I think perspective is a big part of it. I'd like to watch TED Talk with photographer James
Not
Natchway,
Notchway?
war photographer, every so often to bring my back. All I need is food and water. Anything
Else
and
is
everything
luxury.
else is. Yeah, and you know that's the thing, man. It's like it's kind of skipping ahead. Let me see what was next on my notes. Making purchases on credit. How do we get over the wall of debt? Let me go ahead and throw these in chat because these are relevant. Well, am I connected? There we go. Yeah, so I guess the question is, you know, once we isolate our resources, like what exactly are the resources? What do I feel overspent in? Am I spending too much? Is somebody else spending my resources for me? Oh, that one infuriates me. Like when people infringe on my boundaries and they can tell I'm not bought into the conversation, and yet they keep taking, speaking. And when they can tell I'm trying to edge out, they get closer, or like, you know, grab my arm, or like try and keep engaged. It's like, dude, yo, you're spending my resources. Back up. There's a boundary here, you know? But making purchases on credit and how do we get over the wall of debt? It's a really simple answer. You know, it's an answer that was tough for me to swallow for a long time because I felt like I had to do the former instead of the latter. And it's just realizing, what's up?
I have thoughts on this question.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Okay. And let me know what you think about this, but I feel pretty strong about this question. So you're asking, making purchases on credit, how do you get over the wall of debt? That is why thought rate exists. It's a mentality. When I think a while back ago, God shared with me, it was like, you could take someone in slavery out of slavery and they're still a slave, because slavery is not just a physical condition, it's a mental condition. And so until the person sees themselves free and knows how to live free, then it doesn't matter what condition you put them in, they're going to still operate from a place of bondage and live as a victim. And so you're talking about how do you get over your wall of debt? Well, it doesn't necessarily begin, I believe, with just necessarily taking on that debt, although it is good to begin chipping down that debt, and very important, especially depending where you're at. And if you're talking about financial debt and they're coming for your lights, okay, you want to work on that pretty quick. I don't want you to end up homeless. But if you're talking about like a situation where that's not a threat right now, but you just keep buying things that you don't necessarily need, or you keep ending up in situations you don't need to be in. So in my case, being a orphan, like having an orphan mentality of I'm just gonna lose my friends. I barely have any friends. I need to make friends, you know, and then I make so many friends to the point where I'm now exhausted because everyone wants a piece of my time. You know, like I have to first begin to recognize and see myself as not a victim, and to look at to realistically look at the debt that I have and like recognize I don't need this to be happy. What am I trying to actually take care of on the inside of me by buying this particular thing? Like, do I think I'm somehow going to be screwed if I don't have a new wardrobe? Do I think that I'm going to be, you know, I'm gonna have a problem if I don't have this thing, if I don't eat this thing, if I don't whatever? Like, if I can figure out what I'm actually trying to replace by having the thing, then it's a lot easier to not get the thing. You know, so in the situation of eating, for instance, and again, we'll just talk about debts. You know, weirdly enough, you could look at needing to eat as a debt. Like, that's the debt to your body. I thought that if I felt the slightest bit hungry, I needed to eat immediately, and I felt anxiety to eat. And then I realized just because I feel hungry doesn't mean I have to eat. And that realization completely cut snacks out of my life. Like, I don't sit and eat and eat and eat and eat because I don't feel like giving power to anxiety in my life. I don't necessarily need to act on every impulse that I feel. In the same way of my own finances, there was a period of time where I put a lot of things onto debit or to credit, specifically electronics, because I could pay them off, but God was like, I don't want you doing that. And he kind of worked on my heart and helped me get free from the realization, free from thinking that I have to keep, put everything onto credit. Just no, because he helped me realize I can't be generous if all my money is going into some kind of credit bill. I can't, the Best Buy essentially was controlling my level of generosity. Because I felt like I needed that entertainment. I needed this, I needed that, so I would put it onto it because I could, and because I could pay it off theoretically, and I did. But it prevented me from being generous. It also put me in a financial tight space constantly. So I realized I didn't have to do that to myself. I could live off of what I currently have and build up to the point where I actually was able to buy it. Then it made it a lot easier for me to stop spending unnecessarily. I wasn't a slave any longer to the feeling of I need to have this. I realized I didn't need to have this. I was able to replace it with gratitude for what I already did have. So anyways, for me, it all starts up here. It starts
Honestly,
with rewiring this.
It really does, because at the outset of this, we talked about other entities making our decisions for us. If you go long enough without making intentional decisions, your environment begins to make decisions for you. It just doesn't stop.
Yeah.
You can't stop the environment from making decisions, because that's what the world does. If you leave a glass of water on a counter, it's going to evaporate until there's no more water in it. Things just happen. Things decay. Things grow. If you look at a house that's been abandoned for years and years and years, bugs and rabbits and animals and stuff are going to find their way in. Things are going to fall due to entropy. Mother Nature is going to take everything back. That's just the cycle of things. But there's always a trade-off, guys. There's always a trade-off. You're always trading something for something, even if you do it subconsciously, even if you do it unintentionally. By me not paying my credit card bill, basically what I was sowing was, I was sowing an environment of where this credit card company gets to dictate how much money I spend. Like you were saying, Brandon, Best Buy was dictating how generous you could be.
Right.
Well, this company was dictating how quickly I could pay off my car, and because I couldn't pay my car off quickly enough, that exacerbated the fact that I owed more and more money because of interest. Because I owed more and more money, I couldn't save up for a house or save up for other things. And it always felt like a mountain that was just building.
Yeah.
So how do you get over the wall of debt? How do you stop making purchases on credit? And Austin hit the nail on the head. You don't really need as much as you think that you need. You only need as much as you actually need, because all the extra stuff is just stuff that makes you feel good. And, I was thinking about this earlier, and it's a video that I'm going to make for Break the Meta. And it's a thought video about just because you feel it doesn't mean you have to engage it.
Yeah.
And man, that's all encompassing.
Story of my life right now.
Food, sexual preferences, sexual actions, thoughts, how you manage your finances. Like whenever we go someplace, our rule of thumb between me and Arian is that if something costs more than $100, we think about it for at least 24 hours before purchasing. Right? And it could be something that, this is something that we need. We've talked about this. We want this. Even if we've discussed it previously, the rule of thumb that we try. Now, we don't always get this right, and it's not perfect, but we sit on it for a while just to make sure we're making a smart decision, because that $100 could go towards something else, or we could find something better. because making emotional decisions will destroy your life.
Yeah.
And I want to take that a step further, guys, because when I say emotional decisions, one of the big ones that's prevalent in the US right now is sexual decisions, emotional sexual decisions. Just because I have a thought towards another man doesn't mean that I need to act on that thought. Just because I have a thought towards a woman, since I'm married, doesn't mean that I have to engage that and, continue looking at her butt or other parts of her bodies or whatever. I have made a decision with this ring by marrying my wife saying, I am going to choose to throw those thoughts in the trash. That doesn't mean that I don't have them.
Right.
It just determines this predetermines what I've committed to doing with those thoughts, And when I decided to get out of debt, and if you go to my YouTube channel at Break the Meta on YouTube, part of my story is on there, and it talks about how I got out of debt, and I didn't do anything crazy. I just stopped spending money in stupid ways, and I started addressing the areas where I owed money instead of addressing my feelings where I felt like I needed to get something instead of ignoring my problems, And the same is true for everything. I did the exact same thing with people when it came to my emotion and my time. I stopped saying yes to everybody, and I started saying yes to myself, yes to filling myself so that I could live abundantly. Then I realized, I realistically have 5 hours I can designate for other people this week. And if anything came to me over those 5 hours, it's like, sorry, I can't help you. Well, Tim, you're supposed to be following God. And, you said that you would help me if I ever needed help. And I'm in a dire situation right now. Well, dude, I'm sorry you're in a dire situation, but you kind of put yourself there.
Yeah.
You are your responsibility. I'm only supposed to be there to support you. I am supplemental in your life. If I died, your life should not collapse.
Yeah.
But I needed to change that mindset, thinking that I was that relevant in somebody's life. Even Ariane, if I died, her life shouldn't collapse. It would hurt, and there would be a lot of stuff that she'd have to figure out on her own.
Yeah.
But she does not go on living day to day because I'm present in her life.
Yeah.
That's not a debt that I can ever fulfill. The only person that can fulfill that debt is Jesus.
Yeah.
But anyways, Brandon, I could keep going on this. Do you have any thoughts?
I was just taking a second and looking at Austin was talking about like mindset. Desire holds you back. Desire is the devil. Desire is emotional, and I feel like that probably is language that could be cleaned. Because I feel like having desires or having things that you want, like first of all, what exactly does desire mean to you, Austin? Because in my mind, when I hear desire, I'm thinking wants and desires, things that I really want. And in and of itself, wanting something and really, really wanting it is not necessarily a bad thing if you allow the desires to control your actions and you're not thinking through, okay, that's definitely a problem. But like having the desire for something, if it is properly channeled, in my mind, isn't a bad thing. So I guess what exactly are you referring to as you're talking about desire? So we can clean the language with that. I like this.
Yeah. Desire is emotional. I think a lot of desire is emotional, but I think it's also really important to lean into the things that God puts on your heart. And if you're not a Christian, just lean into the things that are the overarching fundamental purposes on your life. Because, if you wake up and you're just floating through life, everything is going to make decisions for you.
Yes.
But if you have a destination in mind, your actions and your decisions should support the furtherance of your progression towards that destination.
Yeah.
So, for instance, if your goal is to buy a house and tomorrow you go to the mall and you find a $350 leather bag, or in my situation, $275 leather bag, and it's like, ooh, I want this right now. My desire is for that house. I also have a desire to, want to look awesome and have a sweet bag, but which desire has more fundamental application to my life? Which is going to be the better end goal? And it's like, okay, well, because I want this house, I should say no to this in the meantime.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Like you have to realize if you're not, in the case of allowing the desires to control your life, you're just waking up and like, whatever will be. Well, you have to understand we're, again, 3-part beings. you got a flesh, and that's always the loudest part of yourself. It wants what it wants, because in some ways it is taking care of very necessary needs. You need water to survive, you need food to survive, you need air to breathe, all these kind of things are true. But then it doesn't always know the right way to take care of that. So it also, if you feel depressed, if you feel anxious, then it will go for the most quickest possible way to cut out that feeling, which if you're so desiring an object, it will definitely find the quickest way to motivate you to get that object, to deal with the anxiety that you're feeling or the insecurity or whatever it is. So if you live purely by whatever will be, usually at that point, that's where the flesh kicks in and kind of, well, here you go.
Yeah, honestly, guys, part of being mature, if I think about somebody in my life who is mature, an elder, somebody that's 80, 90, 70, whatever, the way they make decisions is completely different than the way I make decisions. A lot of them will think to themselves, okay, well, I've already experienced the emotional highs of getting A, B, C, and D. What I'm focused on now is what's going to happen after my life. And that's why a lot of older generations are so focused on their grandchildren, on their children, the welfare of their communities, whatever, and giving back, especially when it comes to tribal knowledge they've gained over the years. But part of maturity is having the tenacity when those feelings hit to not immediately give in to them. Because, guys, everybody feels desperate every day about something. Whether you think about it or not, the desperation to urinate, the desperation to eat food, the desperation to get out of the presence of somebody that's frustrating you. We all have different desperations we deal with. But a mark of maturity is being able to say, well, my feelings and emotions want this right now, but really, what is my goal? Yeah. And as Christians, Brandon and I, and you guys, if you're a Christian, our call is to love God with all of our heart and to love others as ourselves. So in the moment, if my flesh wants A or B or C, but my goal is to love somebody, that doesn't mean that I have to say yes to A, B, or C, even though it would feel really good, even though if they deserve it. Even though I feel like I deserve it. That's a big thing. Oh, man, that is a big thing. The prosperity gospel really gets to me because Jesus is not a genie.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think, well, I am a son of God, so I deserve this. Not true. Sorry, brother. We're called to lay down our lives. We're called to give up everything. I mean, the Bible even says that those who find their lives lose it. So the ultimate goal for my life, for instance, is to love other people, even though see, Austin. Even if people don't approve, right? Because the Bible even says that they will scorn you because of my name. If you love people, a lot of times being obedient, actually almost every time, when you're obedient to God, when you're obedient to Jesus, and if you're obedient to healthy things, it costs other people a lot more than it costs you. When I'm obedient to myself about my time limitations, it costs the person that wants my time a lot more than it costs me to say no, because they feel like they're entitled to it a lot of the time, especially if they don't respect my boundaries.
Yeah.
And there was a guy today, we were pumping gas, and he was in the stall or on the other side of the gas thing, whatever. And he was just sitting in his car, and he's like, hey, man, I had no clue. We couldn't see each other. And I was just sitting there talking to Ariane through the window. And then I hear about 10 seconds later, hey, talking to me? Peek around, and he's not even out of his car. And then I hear, hey, man, hey. And I walk around, and he's looking back at me. I'm like, yeah, what's up? And he gives me a spiel about, hey, man, I'm on my way to Kernersville. I've got $1. I need to get gas. I'm going to be late. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, so biblically, I'm supposed to give to those who need, right? But then I had this check and discernment. I was like, I'm not giving to this guy, and I was just sitting thinking about, and I told him that. I was like, sorry, dude, I don't have anything for you. He's like, oh, okay, whatever. And then I got in the car and I was like, man, I feel kind of weird about that because I had the means to give to him. Now, I lied to him in the moment, kind of. I said, because I only had my business card, and I don't want to use my business card for personal things, but I left my credit card at home. So I could have just used money on my business card, but I didn't feel good about that legitimately. So I told a half lie. But I was thinking to myself, okay, well, if he was genuinely in need, he would have gotten out of his car and came to me. Because when I'm in need of Jesus, I get out of my car and I go to Jesus about something. I don't always expect him to come to me. And like, it's not a one-way thing, brother, especially if I'm the one in need. If you're the one in need, you got to work for it a little bit, you know? And then I was just thinking about how it just felt so mechanical, how he was going through the motions. And when I said no, he's like, yeah, just like, I'm not even going to get out of my car and come to you and talk to you about this. I'm just going to yell at you until you come to me where I'm in. I was like, why do I feel in debt to this guy? I don't even know him, you know? But that's where I had to understand, okay, well, I could do this, but you know, I have a spirit of discernment. I can understand, or I believe that I can make a good decision on this. And I really don't feel like I should do this, you know? And we have to do that on a daily basis because there's so many times when it comes to spending money that it makes sense. When it comes to spending time, it makes sense. When it comes to spending emotion, it makes sense, but it's not healthy to do so. Like in that book, Boundaries, it talks about this one lady who always wants to engage with the protagonist of the story, Sherry, about what's wrong in her life. And Sherry, on her lunch break, was like, well, you know, I could either eat my lunch or listen to this lady talk about what's wrong with her life for so long. And she listens to the lady, and the lady talks about how bad her husband is and about how bad her life is and her finances. And 25 minutes later, you know, with 5 minutes left of lunch, the lady gets up and she's just as frustrated. And Sherry thought to herself, man, I just gave her 25 minutes of the 30 minutes I was supposed to keep for myself. Why is she no better off? Well, that's because she's not paying her own debts, you know? And so it's like Sherry was paying off that lady's debts and it wasn't doing any good because she's not being responsible for herself. So, you know, how do you get over that wall of debt? Well, you got to realize where your boundaries are.
Yep.
You know, and you got to also understand where other people's responsibility, where your boundaries end and other people's responsibilities begin.
Yep. Gotta break out of that slavery mentality to whatever it may be and recognize that you don't have to get the thing, you don't have to do the thing, you don't have to do any of these specific things. God wants us to live out of abundance, everything by invitation. And so if it's something that I'm doing because I feel like I have to, that if you feel like you have to or else, that should be a red flag to begin thinking, why do I feel like I need this or else? You know, and things. And I like the idea also, just kind of going a little ways back to what you were talking about, the culture that you've set up between you and your wife of, if it's over $100, we're going to sit and think about it for at least 24 hours. Because honestly, if something is meant to be, it should not disappear like that. Like it should not. It should remain, because the way God has worked with me personally is he's taken his time. God doesn't rush me through life and like, you know, now I'm halfway, you know, down the road and I don't know how I got there and I'm like dazed and crazed. No, like God walks me through things. The things that are sustainable are one step at a time in life. And so I'm having to relearn that all over again too, because like I've been going through a process of looking at houses and apartments, and I slid squarely into a tactic of, this may not be available for much longer, so you should try to go out and do this now. I'm like, yeah, that was dumb.
Oh man, did I ever tell you about the time we went to the timeshare?
Oh, no, you haven't.
Oh, okay, my goodness. So the guy was trying to tell us sell us a timeshare, and we were like, no. And it was like a 6-hour engagement. Like they were carting us around town. I remember he made this comment, like, if it makes sense, it sells itself. If it makes sense, it sells itself. It's like, well, sure, you know, this candy bar is 50 cents and it's delicious. Of course, Tim, get yourself a candy bar. No, dude, I'm trying to get fit. You know, I'm trying to eat healthy. No, but dude, you deserve this. You're hungry. It's here. It's cheap. You have the money for it. You know, it's going to be delicious. You know, you can eat something healthy later. Dude, shut up. You know, but The thing about that was, I remember we were getting objection about why we didn't want it. Ultimately, we just didn't want it. I'm being disconnected again.
Oh no! Oh gosh!
Goodbye, everybody.
Ah! What is happening with Discord today?
I don't know. Maybe that's a cue for us to end it.
Well, no, we still have 10 more minutes. I mean, I guess technically we could if we needed to. Is it truly still connecting you?
Well, it says you've been disconnected. Sit tight. We're patching you back in.
Okay.
I'll just continue talking.
Yeah.
But anyways, with the dude, got to a point after we had said no so many times. He was like, "Well, don't you have any friends and family that you could ask to cash app you like $300 a piece?" I was like, "Man, you're really overstepping my boundaries right now. What the heck is your problem?"
Yeah, that's a bit much. Stop, please. Leave me alone.
Yeah, but the whole tactic of now. I think anytime you're stressed to make a decision that's not for your welfare and is for the welfare of somebody else, right now, it's almost 99.999% repeating a definite no. I shouldn't make this decision. Anytime you feel like you have to make a decision right now, probably not a smart decision to make a decision based on what somebody else tells you.
I get the feeling, though, specifically that if God were wanting you to make what would seem to someone else a split-second decision, he would have already begun working on you before you even got to that place. So that way, when the time came and the split-second decision sunk in, you have already been prepared for that moment, and you would not be saying no based or yes or no based out of like compulsion, but because you're already prepared for that moment. So like that's because God leads by peace, and he also is repetitious because repetition is the motor of learning. And so sometimes you just have to go through something multiple times before you finally get through your thick skull. Talking to myself.
Yes, Brandon. So the last comment, and I want to wrap up with this, is how do we live in overflow when we don't have much to begin with? And I think the answer for Christians is a lot easier than the answer for everybody else because, it's all based on a comparison of value versus no value.
Come at us, atheists. It's easier for us.
Well,
sorry.
Yeah, it's so hard to quantify where our value is if you don't believe that you start with value. So how do you live in overflow when we don't have much to begin with? Biblically, it says that God created us intentionally. He knows every hair on our head. He breathed life into us. It was a very intimate creation. And he created us in his image, and it said that he has plans to prosper us, not harm us. He has purpose for our life, and it says something like each according to his own. And there's so much value in that in and of itself. If you look at the lives of the people in the Old Testament, especially, God didn't use all this secondary and tertiary stuff to support who those people were. He used who they were as they were, whether it was David, who was a little sheep boy out in the middle of a field, Moses, a guy who didn't have much money, had a stick and a stutter.
A stick and a stutter.
Yeah, he had a stick and a stutter. And then you had Saul, who was Paul previously, and he persecuted Christians. It's like God sees value in who you are as you are, not with all of the extra frills of which you think that you have to attain to have value. And when you realize that, man, now I'm not saying it's super easy, because even when you understand that, or even when that is a mark of who you are inherently, it's not easy. But when you lean into that and you wake up thinking, I don't need anything extra today, I'm great as I am. I'm loved as I am, and I'm valuable, and I'm worth my purpose today as I am. You start realizing that you don't need an extra $20,000. You don't need a new house. You don't need, 2 running vehicles that don't have a check engine light on. You don't need that haircut that's going to make you look hot. You don't need that new pair of glasses when you have a pair of glasses that already work. You don't need all this extra stuff, even though you want it. And that's how you start to live in overflow, man, because everything that comes in that's beyond you inherently is all extra. Everything you have is extra. Every dollar that comes into Thought Raid is extra, even though we think we need this money to live, all of it's extra because the Bible says that God meets all of my needs, not man, you know, and he fulfills it through different ways. Sometimes he uses people, but he also uses donkeys, you know? um, and that's the crazy thing. We think that, and we qualify all the things that we need in life based on the environment, based on our culture, thinking, okay, well, this is what our environment and culture says I have to have value and to be okay, you know? But God wasn't that way. When he sent the Israelites out into the wilderness, a steak dinner with some hash browns and, you know, some rolls and some mashed potatoes and it's like, well, I mean, you had what you need. Be thankful, you know, because the way we're supposed to communicate with God is through prayer and supplication with thanksgiving. With thanksgiving, guys. Yeah. If you're thankful with, there's a song that comes to mind, irrelevant because I don't know the verses and I don't know the name of the song. Forget that. But when you approach life from the position of everything I have is enough, thank you for everything in overflow, you start being more appreciative of everything else that comes in. And when you identify that everything else that comes in is extra, it's so much easier to give it away. You know, but there are points of contest. Like if you are a single mother of a family of 6 and you don't have enough money, that's a much more difficult pill to swallow. And I have complete compassion for that. I can't relate at all. So I understand if you have difficulty accepting this.
Yeah.
But you know, the truth is that God meets our needs, not man or culture or in our environments. Yeah. You know, so we have to be thankful for what we do have.
Yeah, I think to be rounded, there we do have needs. We do have like bills to pay and stuff of that nature. I think the most important thing is that if those needs are being met, and even if they're not, but in the process of getting them met, always be grateful. Because that's how you begin to live out of the overflow, and you begin to see areas where you can give, even if it's not much. And you can give in more than one way. You can give emotionally to a person. You give them your time to them. You can give them your strengths, stuff of that nature. And of course, you can also give to people finances if you are able to do so. But yeah, like it's through that gratitude that you begin to see what you do have. You know, I'm going through a place right now that's super spooky for me. But God is taking care of me in this moment. And so I'm in this weird place of like, I'm going to be having some needs coming up here real and soon. But I do also recognize that God is taking care of me, and I do have enough to take care of me for a period of time. And so in that time frame, and even beyond that time frame, I can be thankful through it all because I have a life. I have air that I can breathe. I have friends. Like, I'm no longer an orphan. Like, I no longer have to have that mentality. I have many friends. I have so much going on for me, and that helps me get myself off of lack and on to what I have and how good God has been to me, which enables me to be generous. And it just really kind of solidifies that thing that God has shared with me of like, God's expectation on your generosity has nothing to do with how much you have, but rather on how much you trust him. And that's a huge thing. Are you willing to let go no matter what season you're in of certain things so that he can then give you more? Because if you think about it, like if we constantly held on to everything we had tight-fistedly, well, our hands are not open to receive new. But when we let go of that, now we're in a position of exchange, you know. So one day I may have a whole lot sitting on my hands, and the next day I may have just a tiny little bit. But I always have my hands open to receive what's next coming my way, and open to work and to grab hold of things to then, of course, you know, let go of them when the time comes. So I don't know, just a perspective.
Yeah, I totally missed Seth's comment earlier where he said, sounds like the difference between chasing happiness and seeking comfort. I feel happy if I buy things, but I feel comfort if I can afford them. To comfort, you need growth. I think that's absolutely relevant because, as Brandon was saying, when you're so focused on what you don't have and what you think that you need, you start building a monument to lack. And that's all you focus on. It's like, well, I like this. Well, I also like this. And I like this. And you start getting defeated and hopeless. But when you approach, if you wake up tomorrow, or even if you want to start right now and think to yourself, well, what do I have? And you could, dude, start bare bones. I woke up today. I have an opportunity to try again.
Yep.
I'm healthy. I have all 4 of my limbs. And if you're a paraplegic, I have all 2 of my limbs. Whatever. I don't mean that to be funny, but in actuality, you have to be thankful for the absolute minimal amount that you have, and just build your way up, because that really broadens your perspective. I have all 4 of my limbs. I don't have any. I had a weird fungal, I had these little sores that came up on my arm over Christmas, and they're gone now. I'm really thankful that's gone, because the sun's out and the guns are out.
Yeah.
It's 78 degrees today. It's warm finally.
Yeah.
My relationship with my wife is awesome. I have good friendships. Even though we're not making hardly any money at all through ThoughtRaid yet, we're making some money. This is cool. And plus, I'm able to talk to people about things that are on my heart, and it's helping people.
Yeah.
Look at the chat. There are people that are actually being engaged with. That's awesome.
Amazing. Yeah.
I have a computer that does all the things that I need, even though my computer screen is 12 years old and not huge, and is only HD. It's not 4K. I have one that works, man. There's no cracks in it or anything.
Exactly.
There's so much when you start actually looking at it, instead of having a pity party saying, I don't have enough.
Yeah.
Dude, my life is abundant as it is, and everybody can say that. Everybody can say that regardless of your situation if you look hard enough. And that's the heart position that you have to get out of debt.
Yep. So, with that said, I do want to, I guess, let you guys know of my specific need. Though, after talking about living by abundance, I do have a need, and I want you guys to at least be aware of it. But I know that God will take care of me some way or another, and already is taking care of me. So, I'm trying to approach this from a balanced perspective. But one of the things that I want you guys to know is that for me to be able to continue to do this full time, to be able to provide this for you, we do need to at least be making roughly around $3,000 per month. If we can get to that place, I will be able to completely focus my full-time energy into building ThoughtRaid without having to get another job. And so any kind of support that you're willing to give will make a huge difference. This is a need for me. If it does not get met, of course, I'll get myself another job and could take care of my needs. But if I could continue to focus on building up ThoughtRaid as a full-time job and ministry, that was something I would love to do. And what you can expect from us in doing so is that we will continue to study and research things to bring you guys good topics. We will continue to expand ThoughtRaid. We are already beginning to look at going live with people in person and going out to churches and talking to people with these topics instead of just online, to do that in person. And we are planning on increasing the quality of our streams. Right now, we're experimenting, trying to jump into things sooner and letting you guys know to and share things a little bit sooner as well. We're just experimenting to see how we can get ourselves out there. But if we can get to about 3,000, that would help me to be able to just, okay, now I can focus on this without having to split my attention into taking care of bills from having to get another job, which also detracts energy that I can put towards ThoughtRaid. So if this has meant a lot to you, please consider subscribing. Austin, I wish you were here so I could say again, I'm very grateful for the support that you've done. And also to Stormy, to Kristen, and to Kyle. You guys, I really greatly appreciate all the support you guys have already done. We are about ready to actually do our first tithe, and I'm super excited about that because we like to, in the process of receiving, we like to give because we always have something we can give. So I want to thank you guys for watching. It has been a lot of fun. We broadcast every week on Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll be live again tomorrow at 4 p.m. And so we'd love to have you there for that. But other than that, thank you guys for watching, and you have a good Friday. See you guys.